Welcome back to another episode of CAD Modeling in OnShape with Killer K with a J. So, the first thing you need to do is to copy the CAD Modeling document. You can see the directions here. So let's go to your OnShape documents, and we're going to right-click on it or two-finger mouse click and copy workspace. Okay, and we're going to change it to last name, first initial there at the end. Click OK, and it should open up. Okay, so notice the first tab is the instructions here. So if you want those right here, you can, or you can have them open on a separate screen. That's helpful. The first assignment is the symmetric extrusion. Now, symmetric extrusion is just a normal extrusion. You select your sketch, but instead of everything going one way and it, going out however far you click it, this one splits the distance evenly on either side of your sketch. Okay, so notice here, if I stretch it out like that, notice it stretches out the same distance on the other side. And we want this depth to be 1. So boom, there it's 1, symmetric, and we're good. Next is the intersect extrusion, which is, again, an extrude option. So this one, if we choose intersect on the far right option, we need to first select a face or a sketch region that overlays our object that we want to remove. So it'll take this shape that overlays the solid block and remove everything else that's outside of that sketch, going straight down. Boom. So you notice it says, oh, you want me to remove all that except for this parabolic shape here. Okay, and we want a blind 1 inch, and notice everything else is gone. Next is a revolve. The revolve function up here takes a region and revolves it around an axis. So first you need to select your profile. So this is like a cutaway view. And now it's saying, well, what do you want to revolve it around? So you have to be careful where you click. Okay, so select revolve axis. If you click here, notice it revolves it around that axis. Okay, and it makes that kind of shape. Remove that. If you select here, it makes a little plug there. That's not what we want. We want to select this construction axis so we get a hollow center. Notice the construction axis is separate from the sketch. That's how you get that kind of hollow pipe look. Okay. Next, here's the holes. So holes need a sketch with points placed on it. It's like when you go to drill something, you need to place a center mark and then you put your drill bit on tip on the point and you drill straight down. The same thing with holes. It needs to know where the center of the hole should be. So you should have a separate sketch too with points, or some sketch with points placed before you do the holes feature. Otherwise the holes have nowhere to point to. So select hole. And then it says, okay, well, which hole do you want to put this on? So we're going to select our hole. Notice if you hover over, we want this one right up here. And we just want a simple through hole. And actually, we want it to be blind. We don't want it to go all the way through. So we want the width of this hole to be 0.25, the diameter to be 0.25, and a depth of 0.75. Okay, so it'll go down 3/4 of an inch. Of course, our extrusion is 1 inch, so it doesn't go all the way through the object. Okay, now the next hole is a counter bore hole. Okay, so before we do that, we're going to change from simple to counter bore. So you notice counter bore has a recessed drill that's a little bit wider and then the center for the actual hole. This allows you to fit like a bolt down in there to be flush with the top. So we want this to be blind. Okay, and then we want the upper diameter, or sorry, the diameter of the hole to be 0.375. Okay, then the major diameter to be 0.75. Okay, then the recess to be 1/4 inch, and then the remainder of the hole down to a depth of 0.75. So that's from the top to the bottom of the hole to be 0.75. Okay, notice it's going to be angled at the bottom, and we need to select where we want to do that. Notice it's got two holes in one. So you've got the recessed part that's wider, and then the actual hole if you look down in it. Next hole will be the countersink. So we're going to select that there. So countersink gives you an angled cut. It has a major diameter of 0.75. So that's this one right here. Okay, a taper of 83 degrees. Okay. Okay. And then 0.375 for a diameter through the disc here, and then a depth, and we want this to go through. So not a blind, we want it to go through. So that way it goes all the way through the object. Notice that one goes all the way through. None of my other holes do. Okay, next hole is a tapped hole. So this is what you do if you want to have it ready for screws, or this is a way to put information about what kind of screw you want to put in there. Okay, so we're going to have a simple hole, not all the way through. This is a blind, and we want the standard to be ANSI. So that's how you bring up all the different tap options. Okay, so we want the hole type to be tapped, not a clearance hole. It has to be tapped. Okay, and then the size to be 1/4 inch, the number of threads per inch to be 20. Okay, and then the rest of these are pretty much the same. Okay. And then we need to select, well, where do you want that hole? We want that there on that one. Okay, and then our last hole is a clearance hole that just goes all the way through this. So select our last one. This is a simple through and custom. And we want the width here to be 0.531, the diameter to be 0.531 inches. Here we go. Boom. Notice that goes all the way through. You should have 1, 2 that go all the way through. The rest do not. Okay, so that's the hole. The next is a loft. The loft allows you to connect various sketches that are in different planes to create a profile. So select the loft. Okay. So we're going to blend these three profiles into one solid object. So we want triangle to hexagon. Notice it transitions from a triangle to a hexagon, and then we're going to transition that hexagon shape to a circle. Okay, and this is useful if you want to make a curved profile, like say a horn of some kind, or a twisted handle. You could definitely do that. In a later video, I will show you how to do a horn. All right. And there we go. That's a simple loft. Next, we have a circular pattern. Okay, so this is helpful if you want to put a bunch of holes around in regular intervals without having to put, say we want to do like 10 holes. You don't want to have to do each hole individually and separately and try to get its position right. You can say, well, I just want to do this hole 10 times around and space them out evenly. So the pattern is up here. It might be showing linear pattern. We want circular pattern. Okay. So which entities do we want to pattern? Okay, we got to change part pattern. We don't want to pattern the whole part. We want to just pattern a feature. So we got to change that to feature. So now we can select, well, which feature do we want? And you can either select it from your list here, like we could pattern that little rectangular extrude. But we just want this hole, which is extrude 4. So we can either click it here or go over on the part and highlight it there. And now we need to tell it, well, what do you want to rotate it around? What axis? So you can select any circular feature. I'm going to select the outside of this ring here. Oops, we don't want to pattern that. We want the axis of pattern to be that. Okay. And then we want it to do 10 times. Okay, so we got an interesting issue here. We don't want the extrude 2. We want the hole. There we go. Okay. So extrude 4 for the features, and then the edge, and then 10. And if we didn't want to go all the way, we wanted to stop, say, at 270, we could tell it to stop at 270. Okay, next, linear pattern. This is helpful if you want to make a bunch of dots like a Lego, or if you want something to repeat in a row, something that you made in a row. So we want linear pattern right up here. And the entity to pattern, we don't want a part. Again, we want feature. So we want this feature right there. And now we got to select a direction. And we do that by selecting an edge. Okay, so to select an edge, we want to go this way. So notice it's only got 2. We want 6 of these. Okay, it's got 6. And then we want it to copy the same thing this direction. So now we need to click on, we need to check the second direction box. And then click direction, and we want click on this edge that goes the other direction. And we don't want just 1, we want 4. Okay. Now if it were going the other way, we just click this arrow here to switch the direction. Notice we've got 4 on there. And we're good. Check that off. All right, the next is the shell. And what this does is it scoops out material a certain distance. So click on shell. And then you can rotate to the bottom of this. Either use your up or down arrow keys, or hold down the right mouse button and grab the part and move it around. So it's saying, well, which faces do you want to remove? Well, we want to remove the bottom, and we want to do it so that it's a thickness of 0.1. Okay, so that means from the top and the bottom is 0.1 inches anywhere, and it removes anything that's thicker than that. So notice you get this look that kind of mirrors the top. Anything straight down gets removed. Okay. Boom. All right. So that's a shell. Sweep allows you to take a profile, and it doesn't have to be a circle. It could be an octagon. It could be a square. It could be any kind of shape, as long as it's a closed profile that starts at the beginning of this path and it sweeps it around. Okay, so we can click on the sweep tool here. Okay, and first it wants a face or sketch region. We'll select the circle, and then the path is the little paperclip looking path, so you need two things right here. Okay, so we're going to choose sketch 1, and notice it takes that, like a sock, it takes that circle and sweeps it up and around that path, so you get this kind of paperclip look. Okay, and there you go. That is a sweep. And then finally the mirror. This is a nice tool when you've built one side of something and you want to duplicate it to the other side without having to remake it again. This is also useful if you've got a horn and you want to duplicate the horn on the other side. You just select the mirror plane. So mirror right here, select mirror. And it's asking you what entity do you want to mirror? Okay, well, we want to mirror this whole part, so we're going to select that. And then it asks you, well, which way do you want to reflect it? That's the mirror plane. So select mirror plane. We want to reflect it over this back side. Now, if we chose this side, watch what happens. Notice it makes the same copy next to it. If we choose the top, it mirrors it that way. Boom. So it flips it upside down. That's not what we want. If we were to do this side, it would create a copy that way. Well, that's not what we want. We want it to flip over this way. So we've got a nice little bracket here. And good. So now we're good to go. And we're done. So remember, at Northland High School, we take the Viking way. Aspire, achieve, and adapt. That's a Viking way and a slap, though. If you want to learn, then it's Mando. Killer K always got your back, though.